Well, welcome, and I am your host, and my name is Britton. Today, I just wanted to get on here before we start our conversation and let you know that I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I speak to people that are in those professions, and this channel is for information only. Hopefully, it's good information that you can apply to your life. So, as I speak to those guests, and if you feel like you want to support any of those, some of them are authors, blogs, mental health advocates. They have foundations, not-for-profits. If you want to support those people, I'll put the links in the description below. Also, if you'd like to support the Suicide Monk podcast and help keep this moving forward, I'll put that GoFundMe in the link below. And then also, I just want to get on here and tell you a little bit about Ashes to Life coaching. It is a passion of mine to help people go from a darkness that they live in to finding who they are, and coming from that and experiencing that lifestyle, and now being on the other side of that, I want to help those that are struggling, that want to live and find that life and find that passion and that purpose. So if you're interested in that type of coaching, I have some spots available. I will leave the link down below and how you can contact me. And that's about it. Thanks a lot. We'll see you on the good side. So before our conversation, we're going to have a word from Scarlet Raven. She's going to tell you about some products that she has from White Fox Medicinals. And they are products that I use, and they help me quite a bit. So she's going to tell you about that. I'm also going to leave links below to her store, her website. I believe those are discount codes for me to you. If you need anything like that, I use the pain remedy stuff. Helps me with my shoulders. It's great stuff. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the good side. Peace.
Hi, I'm Scarlet Raven, and I am the head alchemist and founder of White Fox Medicinals, which is an all-organic, earth-based plant medicine remedy company where I make effect-based tinctures and topicals to help you feel healed, whole, and totally loved. I have stuff like the Repair Remedy salve that will take out inflammation and pain from your muscles and your body. Other things that actually boost your spiritual inner love, like the Wild Starseed Love Cream. When you put this on, you smell intense aromas of deep Aztec chocolate, which awakens this love inside of your heart. This is edible. You can use it as a body cream. I also have a whole line of tinctures. Some of them heal the nervous system. Some of them boost your body's ability to heal itself. So whatever you're seeking for whole physical balance, that's going to incorporate your body, your mind, your soul, and your spirit, then I have some beautiful healing offerings for you. So go check it out at whitefoxmedicinals.com, and I'm happy to get you all set up.
So, well, welcome to the Suicide Monk, and I am your host, and my name is Britton. And today we welcome Stephanie Bathurst. She is a doctor, clinical. Why don't you introduce yourself? You did such a good job earlier, so please.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a board-certified clinical sexologist, which just means I have a PhD in treating advanced sexual dysfunctions and sexual wellness. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist in a few states in the U.S. I'm also a certified pelvic floor conditioning coach and an integrative medicine provider for mental health. So many different fields that all kind of coalesce to be a holistic health experience for clients that work with me.
What's a pelvic? Did you say pelvic floor coach?
I did. Yeah.
Why don't you tell me before I ask dumb questions?
Yeah. So if you're familiar with pelvic floor physical therapists, we do a little bit of similar. There's a little bit of overlap there. They are much more hands-on. We are not. We specialize in treating pelvic floor dysfunction. So if you have too weakened muscles or the muscles are not firing together in synchrony, then you have things like sexual dysfunction, decreased sensitivity, incontinence, instability with body posture. All of that is kind of impacted by the strength of your pelvic floor.
So now I'm going to ask a dumb question. You forced
There
it
are
out of
no
me.
dumb questions.
Trust me, I got some. They always said that in school. I'm like, no, I got a good one. Just let me. So I'm assuming this is for women, the pelvic floor.
No, actually,
No.
it's for men and women. We all have pelvic floors.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's actually one of the leading causes of erectile dysfunction in men is having too
Oh,
weak a pelvic floor that your muscles cannot contract and release in rapid fluctuations,
okay.
and it impacts circulation, which is all that physiological arousal is, right?
So when this happens, well, when this happens with men, do you see what happens within the family in that really? I guess I don't know much about this at all, so I don't know how it affects women. I guess it would, as I'm sitting here going through the scrambling in my brain, I'm like, I guess it would affect both in some sort of like depression. Um, does it create mental health issues? I don't know if that's a proper way to put that or not.
Yeah, I think it's both and, right? If you have any kind of prolonged disconnection between mind and body and spirit, then yeah, that like internal schism, that separation of self is going to decrease your confidence, disrupt your information processing, really make you doubt yourself or mistrust your own body. And if you can't trust your own body, how do you hold that vulnerable space with other people, including your partner? I think it can also be a secondary symptom if there is like untreated inflammation in the body, chronic inflammation in the body. If women have gone through childbirth and have not gotten the appropriate care for strengthening the muscles that have become really lax from the birth trauma,
Gotcha.
like
Gotcha.
all of these kind of cascade
Yeah.
into this domino effect of physical and then emotional health instability, right?
Is this affected by sexual trauma at all, or
For sure.
are these things related to early or earlier traumas that have happened in life? Not necessarily, I tend to think in youth because I was traumatized in my youth. So, but some people are traumatized in their adulthood. So, how have you found that to be an effect on people?
Yeah, it's a really important question because it is unfortunately so prevalent, any kind of like physical or sexual trauma, in the wide spectrum that it exists. Our bodies hold memories just like our brain does, right?
Yeah,
Somatic
I'm learning that.
presentations. So it's very, very common that we'll have men and women come in with severe back pain, extreme tightness in the hips, really like inability to orgasm or just decreased
Oh
sexual
yeah.
functioning. And a lot of that is your body locking down and trying to protect itself because it holds that memory to, to the extent that it feels like an active threat now rather than
Yep.
a past pain.
Yep.
So 100% they're linked. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of dealing with right now is realizing there's these past things don't require the same response today that they did then. And what I mean by that protective nature of myself no longer needs to be there in that regard. So it's very difficult, even though I know this, even though I know the truth, that I'm very relaxed in my current situation. All these little triggers happen that will push me over that edge. So how do you coach people to maintain this level of, because there's got to be way more to it, I would imagine. Dealing with that internal trauma that's there, that's been stored, and then the mental trauma that backs it up, and then the fact that you have tools in your box, but sometimes, a lot of times, those tools are forgotten. because
Right.
that automatic response, when especially dealing with couples, it's very, very difficult for people to open up because they've generally hurt each other. How do you manage that to make it or help it be a long-term practice in their life and their relationships?
Yeah. So I think the old school model of trauma processing, and trauma, as you know, is subjective from person to person. We could have somebody who went to war 4 different tours, saw a lot of like pain and murder, but the core trauma for them is their partner leaving them, right? Like it's entirely subjective.
Hmm.
And the old school model of treating trauma was more like cognition based, right? It was focused on, well, what belief systems became ingrained from that experience back then, and how do we reframe or reformat that
Right.
belief or thought. And now we're recognizing in trauma processing techniques like EMDR, which is highly evidence based, that you need to process or reframe thoughts, feelings, meaning emotions, physical sensations, the somatic memories that get locked in, the visualizations, if you're more of like a visual learner, and that's what
Okay.
pops up for you as a movie of the past or the future. So we're wanting to identify what is causing the disruption in your quality of life and quality of relationships, and use that as the focus for essentially neural rewiring, right? Like we're trying to get into your body, attending to the mirror neurons that are kind of creating this experience that you expect rather than what you want or need. And we see it as a neural disruption, right? Like the firing of synapses in your body and your brain are communicating something that is not serving you anymore. It's not keeping you
Right.
safe.
Right.
It's not helping you heal. It's not allowing you to connect in the social way that we are made to connect. And so now that we've confirmed you're in a safe environment, and that's where the relational component comes in. If your relationship doesn't feel safe, emotionally, physically, financially, whatever it is, then we're disrupted in that ability to reframe and rewire your brain. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So you're basically doing the whole, for lack of better terms, don't take this offensive, but the whole merry-go-round of it all. Like you're
Yeah.
encompassing everything. And so I've not actually had a conversation on like the sexology part of this, but it makes sense that's also a component. That, I mean, one thing, we don't generally talk about it unless you're Howard Stern. So, it's, I'm just kidding. That's not true. It's not true. I was just kidding. I just came to mind. But we don't talk about it in this context, that this is severely affected. I don't even think about this, but it's so true. And as I, just chopped through a few of my relationships, how that was all affected. And so it's really interesting. What is P-files?
Pilates. So
Phil-
Pilates but it's
okay.
pelvic floor Pilates. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You got it.
I was like, Pilates, and then I was like, no, Pilates, no. So yeah, I wasn't sure about that. Okay, so that's the pelvic floor. And then talk to me about the holistic. I'm the holistic part of all of this for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, so I think just as like a systems thinker, which is naturally how my brain works, I look at so many different variables that impact every single thing. Everything's interwoven. You can't like effectively isolate one particular problem from the other problems in
Right.
relationships because they all just muddy together at some
Yeah.
point. So the holistic piece comes in when we're recognizing for me, because I'm a relationship and sex therapist, it's usually a couple is coming in saying, hey, we can't connect. We love each other. We want to make this work, but we just don't know how. We've been trying on our own for years. We've had a bunch of providers in the past and we can't figure it out. to hyper focus in those dynamics on like superficial relationship dynamics. So the most common example is like who is doing the dishes and who's dropping the kids off at school in the mornings. Although important conversations to have, they're secondary issues that are, there's more superficial things going on. So if what's underlying them is untreated PMDD because the female partner is a new mom in the last 2 years and she's been experiencing depression. I'm sorry. So PMDD and postpartum, it's premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and then postpartum depression, anxiety, psychosis. These are all like manifestations of hormonal imbalances that affect your mental and emotional health, which then impact and bleed into your relationship.
Gotcha.
But if you're not looking at the whole picture, you would, as a provider and as the clients, hyper focus on those superficial conversations in the relationship and not actually treat the core symptom, right? And so I think the holistic and integrative wellness, for me, I'm trained in herbalism and nutritive supplements, just to holistically support mental health, physical wellness, reverse aging, things that negatively impact relationships. We also do meditative movement, things that move your body and help activate just different connections within your mind and body connection, right? Like if you feel disconnected from yourself, or if you're experiencing sexual shame from past religious doctrination and that's jamming up your ability to move in your body, it's gonna disrupt your ability to connect with your partner. So like really it's all these different approaches that are preparing for a whole treatment protocol rather than an isolated one. Does that make sense?
Can I ask you something a little more focused? You touched on something that's actually kind of interesting, and that's religious damage. A lot of people have it. A lot of people have, and it's not just one particular religion. It's I think it goes pretty close to all across the board for just about any religion. And especially women that have these. It's more shame. It's a lot of shaming from the very thing that's supposed to be uplifting them.
100%.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
How do you, man, that gets me. How do you, man, that got me. And my own question punched me right in the gut.
Then it's a good question, right?
Well, I hope so. How would you guide somebody through that? And especially young women, because it's so prevalent, especially for them. And it's so damaging that what they're not only getting it from society, they're getting it from the entity that's supposed to protect them. I'm going to let you talk.
Yeah. And I think what's painful for me, because I'm resonating as well, is that these ideologies are embedded well before you're of age to even know or understand how you're receiving information, right? Like if you've been a part of this community that, well before puberty, you have no idea what you're absorbing, the intensity or the emotion that's flagging those memories for importance later on. And so a lot of what we work on in the initial stages of treatment is like ownership and accountability of your own belief systems, trying to separate spirituality from specific church experiences, right? Like the organized religion is not necessarily your religion or your spiritual belief system. They're separate things. They're different entities. So you don't have to heal. You don't have to sacrifice or completely disconnect from your belief system, your spirituality. In order to do so, we want you to save that and protect that and love that again.
Right.
There has to be that separation.
Our spirituality is so valuable, and it's been tainted by misinformation, per se. And the closer I get to this realm, the bottom of the barrel, the more prevalent these things are. It's not just religion, it's politics. I mean, everybody's, and especially look outward today, everybody's lying to everybody over the internet. And so it's hard to decipher what's true anymore, even within ourselves, because all these outward things are guiding us in a direction. How do you bring people back to their center, to believing in who they are, and that these traumas are not the narrative of their story, their current life? That story's true. That's just not. How do you get them out of that old narrative to help them heal through that?
Yeah. And you touched on something that I want to iterate, because it's so critical to recognize, and it's important for us to teach our children so that this generational trauma doesn't continue to transmit. We don't want to identify with our trauma, with our pain, with these past moments. We acknowledge them and we find allowance for them, right? This is a part of my history. It's solidified. I can't ignore it. I can't change it. And also, it's not who I am. Because the second that I say, I am this, right? I am my depression. I am my sexual assault. It's never going to leave you. It's then a part of who you are. It defines you for the rest of your life. And there has to be...
So you're saying your language solidifies your belief.
Your language solidifies your future, right? If my narrative, my internal narrative is my depression versus this depression that I'm managing. Do you see how the first is one and the same? They're coalesced into one single entity, and therefore not changeable, right? In order for me to remove this depression, I would have to remove part of me, and that feels or is insurmountable. Versus the second narrative, where they're separate, right? Me and this thing that is real and here, and I'm managing, but it's not who I am. It's something I'm managing, which allows your future self to have a chance or a hopefulness of separation from that thing, right?
Yeah. So oftentimes, I learned this not too long ago. I'm now an observer of my life. I now get to observe, like, this is like the podcast. It's not about me. I have a privilege that I get to be part of it. I get to have enough experience to speak well into it, but I really get to watch the unfolding of something beautiful and be a part of something that is not necessarily, it's not, I just get to be part of it. And I think that's so beautiful. It's not, so it doesn't push me in a way to make this work. Like it just works. And I find that beautiful. I wish I could do that more in my life. I had this discovery where I didn't have any reference point for being a good person, and did a psilocybin therapy, and basically have a Peter Pan story. Like I discovered my boy. I discovered the beautiful nature of who I am. I found my marbles. I got my head straight, and then I found my adulthood and the formidability and my capability and my strength as a person, and also as my role as a man. And those things are continually unfolding, even as today. Like I'm glazed over, glossy-eyed because I've been crying this morning, and it's part of the process of me unfolding this thing that's been so predominant in my life and lived here for so long. And now I'm releasing it in a different way, and surrendering to this thing that's pride that wants me to yell and scream and beat myself up and poorly speak to myself. So it sounds like this is the kind of the process is what you're talking about is to push people towards discovering how beautiful they are so they can give it back to others. And that being in the relationship and with the partner. I think I'm hearing you correctly on that.
Yeah, and I think you kind of answered your own question from earlier, which is how we as individuals and we as couples move forward from a trauma moment,
Hmm.
is one of two things, right? We find our purpose.
Yeah.
Why is this valuable to me? Why am I here? Why is this life, why am I existing? Why is this life here?
Yeah.
And two, finding a way to let go of control or hypervigilance, which allows you to stay out of that dualistic response, right? Like you're saying, I found my way to observe. And
Right.
it's beautiful and it's magical and it lets me appreciate life and it lets me love myself even more than I've ever been able to before, because I'm no longer in this reactive state, constantly seeking highs and dreading lows, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so both of those things are critical components to being able to move forward in this like redefined way where you are now in power. You're not stealing or trying to control the power. You feel it within yourself because you're no longer on the ride on the roller coaster, right?
Right. Right.
Which is beautiful.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. How did you get to this point? So you have Bathurst family therapy.
Yeah.
Is that based in your state that you're living in now,
It
or is it
is.
okay?
But I'm licensed in a couple of different states, and we have our couples intimacy based retreats in both Hawaii,
Okay.
which is where I am, and in
Okay.
Florida. So I kind of
Okay.
pop around. Yeah, so Bathurst Family Therapy, we started it in 2014. I used to live in between DC and Baltimore for about
Ooh.
8 years. And so
Hopefully it was pretty.
it was actually, we were next to a state park. We had two
Okay.
acres. It was nice. But yeah, we relocated here to Oahu on the North Shore when we had my daughter. She's 4
Nice.
now, and this was just the place that felt more opportunistic for what I want her childhood to have.
Sure.
Yeah, it's safe and it's loving, and there's just kind of magic here. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have clients that come here for sure, and then I also do virtual sessions with the other states that I'm licensed in.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. So let's back up a little bit. Tell me about your childhood, what you grew up with. What kind of brought you into this field? And was there something that wasn't being fulfilled in your life that kind of pushed you, or did you see this in other people's lives that you why this particular field? It seems like it would be a passionate field for a lot of different reasons. So if you could just kind of guide me through some of your upbringing and maybe some of your own struggles.
Yeah, yeah. I think there are a couple of integral stories that kind of, as I was on my way, bumped me toward a specific niche or area of focus. Luckily, I've always known that I wanted to be in the healing professions. Although I don't remember it, I do have a yearbook bio from 6th grade that says that I want to be a therapist, which is kind of cool.
That is.
So I think as I moved forward in life, I was always told by the outside world. My family's very loving. I grew up with two, a younger brother and an older sister, and a mom who was a single mom and just kind of working constantly to make sure that we had what we needed. So I had this hyper independence, very strong work ethic, which has served me well, but it
Yeah.
also kind of took on a little too much and didn't value rest and relaxation, and ended up making myself sick over the last couple of years. So I've definitely slowed down and found that balance, which I appreciate. I think as oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with you. I understand that.
Yeah. It takes a toll when you're just like burning all the time. You burn yourself out.
Yeah. And emotionally, like I find that right now because I'm in the midst of a lot, just a ton. And as I thought about it today, I'm like, no wonder you're just kind of on your knees. I know it's necessary and I know I have rest coming, but getting there is kind of, you paddle that boat upstream a lot. It gets tiring. So yeah, please continue.
Yeah. I think the more that I completed my schooling, you can't really do anything with a bachelor's degree in psychology anymore. It's a field that necessitates higher degrees. So I tried to graduate early from all of my programs just because I knew I had a lot of schooling ahead of me. And I think as I took on the internships and I finished clinicals and I got into the field, I realized that I most enjoy working with relationships. There was this, I don't remember what year in my undergraduate this was. So I went to Honduras with a group, students helping Honduras. So I went there with a group through the school to help build some of the infrastructure in the orphanages that were super run down in those areas. And when we went, there was a profound moment for me that shifted my focus. So this was earlier on in undergraduate, when I was still doing my psychology degree. When we walked in to the infant room of this orphanage, and there were 30 cribs, 2 to 3 kids per crib, all of them very just quiet and somber. And this story gets me every single time. I remember walking in, and rather than being overwhelmed by hysterics and crying and screaming and the overstimulation that you would expect, it was the silence of neglect, because there weren't enough resources and there weren't enough helpers. There were maybe 60 to 70 kids to 2 workers that were just 24/7 trying to get everybody their basic needs. But touch is also a basic need for human beings. We are social creatures, and to be starved of physical touch and affection at any stage in your development is profoundly devastating. And so I remember walking into that room and just like so flat, with devastation that we couldn't help them. And that's what solidified for me my focus on love and sexual expression and relational healing, because nobody deserves to live in isolation.
Yeah. And we a lot of people do in this country. And it's becoming it is an epidemic. It's not becoming. And my belief is because we've lost the nuclear community. The nuclear family's kind of gone. Everybody's spread out. Nobody's really close in proximity anymore. Friends don't really help friends anymore. It's everybody's on their own. And you're seeing more and more single people, and it's really hard to be single and do everything all by yourself. There's so many things in life that require your attention that it requires, it kind of does require 2 people. It's just a lot of weight that people carry on an individual basis.
Yeah.
That I don't think was there, pre, 90s. We had that still. We still had the family. But you did see it starting to break down in that 80s, 70s, 80s. Starting to see the parents going and playing and not coming home and dropping their kids off wherever and coming back a few days later. That wouldn't have happened in the 50s and 60s. It was dad was gone for milk for 3 days. Mom was still there. It was very different.
It was, absolutely. And I think what people don't recognize, but I see every single day, is the after effects of living in isolation. When you have a basic human need that is unmet or starved for a prolonged period of time, the urgency, the prioritization of that need. Think about like young kids, right? If what they're needing is attention to feel validated because they don't have the ability to self-validate at that age, and they're asking for positive attention in an appropriate way, but it's not met, and they shatter a vase to finally get somebody to pay attention to them, it's not healthy. It's not what they wanted, but it's better than nothing. And so we have a world where we're seeing nasty interactions, mistreatment on a humanity level. And there's this, I think a lot of it comes down to isolation. Like you feel starved of this thing that you're so desperate to have met that you're going to do bad shit to get it met, you know?
Well, I can attest to, at some point, you don't know what to do with it if somebody does touch you.
Yeah.
And I'm in that now. Like I haven't dated for 7 years. I haven't, maybe longer, I don't know, but I haven't had a physical interaction in any sort of, even with like just a intimate hug and
non-sexual physical affection.
With somebody that actually like in some sort of like, I mean, I've had hugs and stuff like that, and I always appreciate those. It's not that I don't get physical touch. It's that I don't get intimate physical touch with somebody that finds me attractive, that wants to touch me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, but now I don't even know what I would do with that. Like I think about it, it's almost retractive because I don't know if I even remember how to reciprocate that, which is, but then we jump back and I'm like, oh, well, I'm used to it. It's always been. So that's why I'm able to live in it with an underlying vibration that's not uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that?
Yeah. And I think that's well outside of this particular topic. I think it's a common blockage for growth and expansion is the level of discomfort that we feel to anything that's unfamiliar, even if what's unfamiliar is exactly what you need and it's the healthier option. You still have this instinctual recoil, which is merely just survival responses from way back when.
Yes.
Right? Like the hard part is acknowledging its presence and disempowering that discomfort and doing the hard thing because you deserve the positive outcome of that hard thing.
Right. Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the evidence doesn't never, I'm an evidence-based guy, and the evidence never really, proves that. So I got to be real careful with that because I can really prove myself right. And all I have to do is say, look at the picture. And then all somebody has to say as well, change your perspective. And that's
is this
really
for like internal trust? Like the decisions that you make and trusting that they're the right decisions?
Oh, yeah. Especially when you're in this kind of mentality or high or long-term abuse, it really skews your ability to trust yourself to make good decisions. Yeah. And even when you do, something always goes wrong. Something always inevitably goes wrong but those things that go wrong prove that it was a bad decision for people like me. Well, I bought this car and then it broke down. That's a bad decision. Well, no, that decision is probably pushing you in a direction that's for the right decision. It's just, it usually, if you can step back and not get too involved in the thing that's happening, step back and watch the unfolding. What unfolds is usually way more beautiful than what you had anticipated or planned yourself. That's what I found in my own life. And again, we go back to the basics. Always been fed, always been clothed, always been sheltered, always, because I'm still here and I'm still alive and I'm still surviving. And I've never we need maximum 3 meals a day. Some guys need 5. Minimum, we need 1. Minimum, 1 every few days. we're always taken care of. If you're alive, you're still here. You're still here. You're being taken care of. It may not be pretty. It may not be what you want, but you're here, and it's still opportunity. That's what people like me can't figure out is, well, this bad thing happened. It proves all the bad things that have ever happened. Not just one thing, all of them. They're all in the same basket. One thing, one trigger creates the pot to overflow.
Have you found your unique answer to why?
Oh, I know. Yeah. I know my roots and where all of this comes from. Actually, that's being in some profound ways being put to rest.
Yeah.
Not destroyed, not being removed, just putting to rest. So like language is a big thing for me right now. Even internal language. I can shut my mouth and really beat myself up. So even my internal language, my external language towards my belief system, my internal language towards my belief system. So all these things are formulating something different. My food, exercise, yoga, all these things I'm instituting into my life to give myself the best opportunity to change, to rewrite the story that, yes, the story behind me is true. The story in front of me is not written. That's mine. I get to do that. So that's the next few months. And there's some profound things that I'm doing and putting in place that I didn't realize I was doing and putting in place that are happening in a profound way that I didn't expect. And I thought about this back in 2018, and it is now coming to fruition in a huge, profound way for me. And it's part of me proving to myself that I can, period. That I know that I can. So, there's this, sorry, I'm talking so much. This is your interview. This thing that I have or have been working on, I've kind of simplified problem solving for myself. And that's one is realizing, it's probably not a new thought, but realization, then believing in myself that I can navigate and do something about the problem. And then moving to the knowing, and knowing I'm more than capable of conquering and taking care of this and becoming something more beautiful than I've ever thought I could be. So I'm very introspective and have been since I was 18. I've been on this journey a long time. So being here now and still being alive is pretty incredible, because these things that used to hinder me, that used to keep me in bed for days, that my sexuality keeps me balled up after the fact because I feel gross and dirty and disgusting. All these things that would debilitate me are now my fuel for life, because I'm no longer debilitated by them. They're no longer my demons. They are just a bad response, or maybe even a good response to a poor past.
Yeah.
But that past doesn't exist anymore. So that's where I'm kind of at. And I love the journey. I'm sharing it. I haven't shared any yet on the podcast because it's a very vulnerable place for me. I do a lot of processing while I'm on camera, and my processing tends to come with a lot of emotion. So because it's starting to formulate, it's coming out of my eyes instead of rage coming out of my being. And that's, it's moving. So
it's moving that stagnant energy that wasn't serving you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm excited for you to
and it's pissed off.
Yeah.
It's really angry. I heard something yesterday. I think it was Richard Rudd. Chaos creates because it keeps that negative energy unstable. And we think that the negative energy keeps us unstable. that negative energy keeps us exactly where it wants us, right in place every single time. That's the same response, same thing every time. The chaos of moving, what's your nature? What is your true nature? You don't get to write anything down bad about yourself. Those are just reactive things to life. What is your true nature? Well, I'm good. I'm formidable. I'm nice. I'm kind. I'm giving. I'm blah, blah. And you figure out, oh, that's me, not this reaction to other people and what they do to me or what has happened to me. I have now the ability and the strength to respond based on understanding that I'm Peter Pan. And I get to have fun with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think as you go through your own journey and you share it with all of your listeners, which is, kudos to you, because that is a deeply, deeply vulnerable and for many people scary experience. You don't know what you're going to unearth. It feels a little bit like Pandora's box. You're opening this like unknown that could be massively changing.
It is.
And it's you transitioning from uncovering and like deciding to let go and release that past pain into the deepened meaning, right? It's you taking control again and being like, yes, this is something that happened, would not have been my preference, right? But it happened. It's part of my past. And so I am in control of how I'm going to mold this into something beautiful and connective and empowering. And that's within our right. That's within our choice, agency, control right now. There's this, this Japanese, in Japanese culture, there's this, I guess, practice. I'm going to butcher the name, so deep apologies. Kintsugi, I think, is the name of it. So if you shatter a vessel, like a teacup, if I'm drinking a teacup and it slips and it shatters, rather than discarding all of the shattered bits, you fill them with gold, right? You put the pieces back together and you make this brand new shape, right? It's a new thing that is so magically beautiful that you've created. It's not the same. It will never be the same as what it is, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be. You're reforming it into something new. And that's what you're doing. You're now in the last phase, which is powerful.
Well, if this is the last phase, I hope so, because it's powerful. It's kicking my butt. So you're saying something that's similar to something I realized. And I think it was really important. I was on my way to take my life. Actually, I was on my way to... No, I wasn't. I was on the way back. I was on the way back from California. I just did my story in California prior to me taking my life. And I was standing in Arizona and looking. I was in the valley by myself for 3 days, camping, sleeping in my car, hiking naked through cactus, not recommended. And then on the last day, I'm sitting there, I'm watching the sunset, and before I couldn't find my camp, I had to do backpacker protocols and look backwards, mark my stuff, territory, everything. For 3 days, I couldn't see camp. I'd get lost, 100 yards lost, just have to know how to do that. And I'm looking out, same place I've sat for 3 days, and I realize I can see everything. I can see the forest through the trees. I see all the way to the mountains, everything, every marker, every piece. And in that moment, I also became thankful for everything that's ever happened. And I was like, that's an odd. I wouldn't wish this to happen, and I wouldn't want to go through it. But because it happened, it's made me this. And how bad is this?
Yeah.
How ugly is this really? Well, it's not if you start taking away the things that haunted me from the past. You start, and my buddy says this, there's this, I don't know, this Indonesian sculptor, and he's chipping away at this elephant, and all his other sculptures are really lifelike and really beautiful, and you just want to go up and touch them. And this guy comes up and is like, what makes you so good at what you do? Why are they so lifelike? He says, all I'm doing is chipping away what's not the elephant. That's it. And so that's why, and that's all we're kind of doing, right? Is if we start unveiling our true nature and chipping away at the things that are not us, anger, rage, rape, sexual abuse, these things, the shame, from church, it's all reactive nature. If we can realize that that's not our true nature and really start to recognize who we are, that's where the catalyst for rapid, profound change happens, I think.
Yeah, and I believe what's at our pure, like, most innocent, inherent self is love.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
There doesn't have to be more complication to it. It's just we want to love other people. We want to receive love from other people, and to have that, what we're working on, that chipping away, is chipping away everything that complicates that, everything that takes or steals our attention away from our truest experience in human life, which is love.
Yeah. Yeah. And I keep hearing things. It keeps flip-flopping back. And we can't love others if you don't love yourself. If you can't love yourself, just love others. There's got to be a profound respect, I think, for yourself to start giving away. And I'm just now starting to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm eating better, doing exercise because I want to respect myself. That's it. That's the weirdest thing. I've never wanted to respect myself. I never understood why people wanted to live. Now I do. Never had goals, never had dreams, never had aspirations, never thought I could. Now I do. All those things that we build when we're children, all those walls, whether it be from bullying, abuse, sexual abuse, not having the friends, whatever it be, there's these things that I discovered in my life that they're false information.
Yeah.
Especially for my adulthood.
They're distractions from what's real.
Yeah.
And what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing that I've been this broken for this long. And I mean, the privilege is I get to now experience this in a different way.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing when you can start to see people open their eyes to themselves, and they start to discover what they are and what they're capable of. It's a grand thing. Do you get to experience that? It's difficult in this field of yours to really see that long-term healing because people move so often and so quick. Do you get to experience a lot of those long-term healing situations?
I do. Luckily, my client retention rate is very, very high. I build really strong relationships, and maybe I don't hear from them for 5 years and they come back in and it's reaffirmed. And I think what I find is that when enough time passes where I don't receive positive feedback from all the work that I've invested in my clients, because usually when things are going really well, you forget about me, right? Like, I'm not supposed to be a permanent every week kind of person in your world. I'm a temporary scaffolding for you to build and hold your own happiness. And that's me doing my job well, right? Usually when enough time has passed where I haven't heard from somebody to be like, I love life, you did amazing, thanks so much. When I start doubting my competency level. And personally, I think I'm very good at what I do because I work really hard to be good at what I do.
Yeah.
Those doubts seep in because anybody who values their work is going to analyze and assess what you do, right? I do get somebody magically reaches out, right? Even if it's from 15 years ago when I started my practice, and they affirm. I feel like it's kind of the universe sending me a little notation of like, no, you're good.
That's awesome.
You're doing your purpose. Continue to like invest in that, you know?
Yeah. I believe that. I mean, I got an email this morning and I was like, where did this come from? It was thanking me. I'm like, well, do I know this person? I'm like, I was confused. And I was like, oh, it's actually just somebody saying thank you. It's like,
those are profound moments for us in the healings, like in the healing space. Cause you just,
you're putting everything forward a lot of times and very little's like recirculating back and I'm okay with that.
And that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You know, if I like this, I like that it's not even taxing. It's not weight either. It's so weird. But I've never been on this side of it because before I was carrying people's weight and I got reminded profoundly that it's not mine to carry and that I just actually don't have those big of shoulders and I can walk beside it, but you need to get somebody else to, wind that peanut machine up because you can't get on this back anymore. And that's, it's easier. And people actually, when they start to stand for themselves, do much better. And if they have support system around them to help them up, but don't carry them and enable them, they heal so much better and so much quicker.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, for a lot of like new therapists, that's one of the most difficult things because you want to be so helpful and know your worth that you become like inadvertently the surrogate parent to somebody who is healing their own attachment trauma. But that doesn't help them long term, right? Like as adults, nobody beside ourselves can heal our attachment wounds. We have to become our own nurturing, loving, consistent parent to ourselves. Yeah. That's the only way to heal. That's the only way to trust.
Isn't that wild?
Mm-hmm.
It's so wild to me. But because I'm in the midst of this right now, I'm like, Britton, there's nobody else that can do this. What you're going to go do, there's literally nobody else that can do it for you. Nobody can do it for you. The only person that can do it is me. And I am so excited about that. I'm like, even if I quote unquote fail, it will only be because of like injury or something bad that happened. It will not be because I've given up.
Right.
And this is going to want to give up, but I refuse to give up. There's intention to this and purpose, and there's life behind it, and there's life in front of it. It's incredible.
I think there's so much irony because a lot of people will come into my office in the lowest place that they've ever been, expressing like sincere powerlessness. Oh, you froze for me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Expressing sincere powerlessness, right? And like you just said, they are the ones who have the capability, the means, the best prognosis for healing themselves. They just don't know it yet. And that's hopefully deeply, deeply empowering and exciting and fulfilling for them that they are that important. They are that significant to their own health and happiness.
Yeah.
We just have to help them see that.
I told this, when I went and did this interview, I was like, I'm the strongest person I know. And it's true. The things that I've been through and been tormented with. And that's the beautiful thing. If you're at the bottom, you're probably the strongest person you know because you've survived things that most people can't. And they're not in this because they couldn't survive it. And that's what gives you the innate ability and that powerful ability to flip that over and become incredibly powerful for other people, not just for yourself, but you get to now use this thing that has hindered you, tormented, turmoil, whatever it has done to you, and you get to turn it and flip it into something beautiful for other people.
Yeah.
Man, you can't tell me that's not profound. You can't tell me that's not a gift, and you can't tell me that there's no sort of entity that's not involved in that, because that's you. Where do you find in anything suffering being the catalyst for beauty? And that's what it does. It creates life.
My first 2 years in the field, my specialty was still sexual trauma, but it was focused on children living in residential facilities. And the people always say, like, truth is always, like, true stories are always more in depth than fiction, right? And that's very true. Like the stories that the police reports that I read, the stories that I heard, just like the amount of hurt that could be out there and existing in real ways, burned me out in the first 2 years working in that field. And I still work with sexual trauma recovery all the time. It's just with adults, because with kids, there were so many limitations to what we could do to help them feel and be safe.
Isn't that ludicrous? I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous.
So
And
sad.
the government wants to control so much, but they literally have the ability to shut down child pornography, and they don't do it. They have the ability to shut down trafficking, and they don't do it. And they waste billions of dollars on a drug war that doesn't work. It's this. I'm so sick by this country and what they've done to our kids and our women. Sick. It's unbelievable what is happening.
Yeah.
And they, you know what? People don't care about being listened to by the government, but they're all worried about their rights. But they don't care about children's rights. They don't care about what they can do for them. I mean, I don't have suicide's the place I belong. I would break in a million pieces when it comes to kids. Even I can feel it already. I can't when it because I've been an abused kid, and I know there's no safe place in this world for an abused kid. No safe place. Not in school, not in the home, not in church, nowhere.
Right.
And sickos can pick them out in a crowd, and we're not doing anything about it. I mean, some people are doing some profound things, and they should, but we're so worried. This country is, it's just, oh my God, there's so much money that could be put towards this, and the sound of freedom, and that dude, I mean, we should be putting it all towards that. Stopping this, eradicate this crap that's destroying our future.
I think so many of, like, the heavily, heavily embedded traumas in our systems, which stay within our systems for up to 5 generations, long time. And that includes cancer, sexual assault, domestic violence, housing insecurity, car accidents, right? Like the amount that can be prevented or disrupted by us as a community just focusing on the youngest generations and getting them the relational and emotional intelligence skills to think for themselves and make good decisions, and for us to put in places community support and resources to stop the abundance of power assertion and abuse that are just interwoven into all of these dynamics. I hope that we can make that change. We have a lot of growth to do as a country.
We do. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. It's a tough one when you see it.
It is. Yeah.
It's a tough one when you've experienced it, and then you see the perpetuation of it, and then you see people close to you where their children are hurt, and this guy gets off with a year in jail, and the child's left with a lifetime of trauma. And it's like, I better breathe.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, this conversation, this last conversation between you and I feels very dark and heavy and hopeless. And what I want to say, good. And what I want to say to any listeners who are hearing this and feeling that heaviness is that whatever work you do, whatever healing you embrace within yourself and bring back to all of these systems that we're talking about, creates the change that we're talking about. You don't need to be a lawmaker in order to change the system. You are part of the system. Your healing is so profoundly important.
Yeah, and that's what I realized along this journey is that everybody's story matters, no matter how much or how little trauma somebody's had in their life. We've all had trauma. It's how that story has shaped your decision making towards your future.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes that so important, especially if you're on a healing journey, to share that you don't have to be healed. Nobody's healed. I'm not healed. I shouldn't be doing this. If that's the thing, I should be in a mental hospital, probably, healing up, but I'm doing something to put something forth, not because I think have it all together at all.
Yeah.
It's just about doing it. Like if you went back and watched the first episode to what's coming, there's a huge difference. I thought I was going to be the drunken high Joe Rogan. And now I want to be the guy that helps people heal and move forward and raise money for that and find a foundation. I have all these things that are starting to well up in me. I'm like, oh, I never thought I was capable of that. I didn't know that would be a possibility for me. Who am I? And it's like, oh, well, maybe I'm the right person. Maybe I'm just the right person. Maybe you're just the right person for what you're going through. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But no, it's not the negative. I think we're in an age where people are starting to, we say we have about 24% mental health issue and suicidal rate in this country, and it's far higher than that. Go talk to anybody on the street. Go pick 100 people to talk to over a 5-day period, and I'll bet you 50 to, I'll bet my experience, 90% of those have thought about suicide, have had somebody in their family or close to them commit suicide, or they're actively in suicidal ideology themselves. And we call that a mental health issue. Maybe that's just a human issue, and we just need to address it and quit being quiet about it. And same thing with some of these other epidemics. And go ahead.
Especially for crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Like I work a lot with medical doctors, EMTs, nurses, police officers, military. The rate of suicide, the prevalence of it is profound, like super, super high. And the more, it's really sad because we, like as health fields, we know better. We know that being on shift work destroys your health. We know that chronic stress response, right, leads to early death. It's known facts, right? But we, as healthcare workers, being in crisis response with very, very high suicide rates, I think you would probably know the percentages better than I would.
They're way up there.
But we don't have the resources. We have hotlines, but usually we don't have the resources to man those hotlines by trained professionals who can help with, you know what I mean? Like it's different. It's very different.
And I think they're scripted for the most part because there's not a lot of good, and I don't want to discount what they're doing because it's valuable. We need those people to answer those phones.
Right.
Yes. But to give, and hopefully they're, I mean, so far it sounds like they've guided people in the way that they needed to, but you're right. There's a lot less educational people behind those phones, or educated in the suicide realm behind those phones. I, I don't know how that can change, because they are valuable. I know people that do it, and it's their. I wouldn't want anybody else doing it. They're kind, they're loving, they're caring, they're, like, maybe that's it. Maybe that's just the point of that, is that there is that element of care behind what they're doing. And so, but what are some of the things? Because I have friends in the military and first responders. What are some of the things that you found effective in when they institute something into their community of first responders, so the police or EMTs or firefighters, or even military guys? Man, the military is a rough one because their resources are there, but they're very limited.
Well, and I think there's people. So I'm out of network. I'm an out of network provider, and for the most part, people who are in this like crisis mode and are feeling real dark, really deep, um, come to me because I'm not associated with any insurances, because
Okay.
I can't communicate. I'm not part of their EAP at work. A lot of these service workers and healthcare workers can lose their jobs by
Yes.
reporting that they
Yeah.
need help. And that's the issue. That's the core
That's
issue. If you're
that's the
carrying a
sickness.
service weapon, if
Yeah.
you are writing scripts, if you have access to medicine, if you know what I mean, like it,
Yep.
even as I renew all of my licenses every 2 years, you're still asked, have you been hospitalized for a mental health issue? Have you, you know what I mean? There's, even in our field, in our mental health field, it's the pressure to be okay and to manage it yourself, which is unreasonable because, again, that's not what we're made to do as human beings, is still so high. And so I think the systems that are out there, the programs that are available in certain companies with HR pushing mental health, which is amazing.
Yeah.
If you have to report to HR that you're struggling with emotional stability
Right.
and therefore decision making, right? Like when you're in that place, you're not making sound decisions usually. If you have to report it to gain access to that resource, it's not helping in the way that it needs to be because the
No,
pressure
not at
is
all.
still there.
Yeah. That's actually more, especially for men, because now
Yeah.
we look weak in
Yeah.
the job field. And when you're on the floor, when you're in a factory, when you're out in the field, when you're wielding a gun, you don't want to be weak.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I can't speak for women on that, but I know men tend to suppress more quicker. Our response to that is shove it down and let it go. That doesn't work. But I've been a first responder, and I still have those images in my head. Those things don't go away.
Yeah.
When you see a kid that's been in a car accident or even dead, it just does not go away.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's got to be something for these men and women. There's got to be. And there's got to be something. And I think we're on the forefront of those things happening.
Yeah.
With this, enough people are starting to say things about our food, about our children, about our women, about our structure. People are starting to come alive and say, no, what happened? What's going on? Something's wrong.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of hope. It's just gonna,
Oh, definitely.
we may suffer a little bit more before that we rise out of those ashes, and that's okay, because we got to go so far down in certain things to be able to make that thing sustainable and last a long time, and realize that this old thing didn't work and now we get to rewrite that new thing. So,
Yeah.
and that's even societal.
Yeah,
So,
I very much agree. I think we're not there yet. And
right.
also, we are on that journey. Like, as a society, as a
Yeah.
community, we are figuring out, we're putting things into place, we're implementing resource and just programs that are accessible. And we're finding out what doesn't work. And with that
Yeah.
information, it's not necessarily a failure if it helps us get to a healthier, better
Right.
experience, right?
Yeah.
I think that's, and although my specialty is more relationships, sexual wellness, mental health, not necessarily suicide prevention, there is naturally a comorbidity, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what we're talking about is exactly why I built that 90-day relationship program, which is only like it's 30 lessons of relational and emotional intelligence skills, how you think, how you change the way that you think, how you access your emotions and learn from them rather than allowing them to rule your instincts.
Yeah.
And how you integrate that into not just like romantic dynamics, but full systems, right? All of the networks that you're a part of,
Yeah.
which
Well, I love that.
hopefully, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times when you hear sex therapist, you think about one thing, sex, and it's really an encompassing factor of healing as a whole, so you can be intimate with your partner. And I really like that. That's fascinating, because a lot of times it's not associated that way. It's not associated with, let's heal some of your intimacy, not just with your partner, but with yourself.
Yeah.
So you can really be present and full and part of that. And, again, we don't talk about this part of it, but it's a very valuable thing, especially if you're in a relationship, to be able to share these, not just sexually, but that intimate part of who you are, because that's what makes the sexual part beautiful and wonderful and worth it. And that vulnerability. I mean, my God, you're two people standing naked in front of each other. You could probably communicate too. That's probably okay, right? Like, you get to see all your flaws on the outside. It's just all the flaws on the inside. We're unwilling to share sometimes. So,
Yeah.
no, I love that. Do you have any closing suggestions, advice, profound words that you've learned over your course that you'd like to share with us?
I think if I'm going to give one piece of advice for healthy relationships that are fulfilling and long lasting, it's develop an effective repair process. More important than like spot on communication, there will always be obstacles. We can't expect or kind of prepare for perfection because it's just not possible. If you have an effective repair process that you initiate as immediately as you can, as possible, to a moment of injury in the relationship, long lasting, right? It doesn't matter if it happens every week.
Explain that a little bit. I think I know where you're going with this, but can you explain that repair process? Because I think I'm actually doing that right now with my own life. I'm trying to subdue or reroute my reaction. So explain that to me.
Yeah. So ideally, we are recognizing, we're trying to catch these moments when we're presenting with contempt, criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, any of like these toxic communication forms. We're disrupting them when that is happening, and we're prioritizing self-regulation, right? When you and your partner are in a regulated emotional space, you come back together. And the timeliness is important, right? So if I say, I'm going to take 15 minutes to go practice some deep breathing, I'll meet you back on the couch in 15 minutes. I'm not taking 5 days, right? I'm taking just enough time for me to regulate, not avoid. So the longer the time goes, the deeper these negative emotions fester unnecessarily. You want to come back together the soonest that you can when you're regulated.
Okay.
And when you do that, go over, right? You can either do an emotion-focused script, which is one person sharing their full truth and experience and the other person just providing active listening. There's no integration of multiple narratives. It's one at a time, which is important for you to each feel heard, valued, seen, respected. And then you can switch. Or conflict resolution. Hey, what do we feel like was the problem in that like exchange before? Okay, we identify it was this. Let's figure out how we're going to respond next time. What can we do together? So it's identifying issues in a cohesive way rather than divided, right? We are figuring out how to resolve this bigger issue rather than you are the issue or I am the issue.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times that requires some level of like diffusion, right?
Yeah.
Because tensions rise and we get all like hot and flustered and frustrated. So figuring out what that diffusive technique is between you and your partner, and that can be playfulness and humor, or for some people it's physical touch or nostalgic memories that are bonding or shared futures that are exciting for you. It's anything that brings you back together and helps you have perspective that you as a unit are more important. Your happiness and togetherness is more important than whatever issue just came up in the conversation.
No, I like that. That's awesome.
It's there's a lot of like individualized responses, but the breakdown of how you repair is the same. As long as you have an effective repair process, your communication doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to have the top tier emotional intelligence out of anybody else. All of those other things come secondary to repair.
I love it. That's awesome. I'm going through the whole story through my head. So, well, Stephanie, thank you for being here. I appreciate you being on the Suicide Monk and joining us and giving your information and sharing your passion with us. I really appreciate you doing that and being here and wanting to be on the show. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had such a good time. I loved our conversation, and I hope that your listeners gain some nuggets of information from it.
Oh, well, hopefully. I'm sure there'll be at least one. So, and that's all we care about is we get the one. Get the one that needs the information for today. Maybe there will be more. And so, but yeah, thank you so much. Well, thank you for joining us today in this conversation. And next, we're going to have a word from Scarlet Raven from White Fox Medicinals. Thanks. And we'll see you on the good side.
Hi, I'm Scarlet Raven, and I am the head alchemist and founder of White Fox Medicinals, which is an all-organic, earth-based plant medicine remedy company where I make effect-based tinctures and topicals to help you feel healed, whole, and totally loved. I have stuff like the Repair Remedy Salve that will take out inflammation and pain from your muscles and your body. Other things that actually boost your spiritual inner love, like the Wild Starseed Love Cream. When you put this on, you smell intense aromas of deep Aztec chocolate, which awakens this love inside of your heart. This is edible. You can use it as a body cream. I also have a whole line of tinctures. Some of them heal the nervous system. Some of them boost your body's ability to heal itself. So whatever you're seeking for whole physical balance, that's going to incorporate your body, your mind, your soul, and your spirit, then I have some beautiful healing offerings for you. So go check it out at whitefoxmedicinals.com, and I'm happy to get you all set up.